Hello, how's it going?
Wait, sorry.
We're live. Okay,
Okay,
cool.
okay, let's.
So, hey guys, welcome to the Inven Global Esports Conference. Thanks for joining the session. This is Thinking 2D, a guide to successful VTubing. And
Good
my name
title.
is Tommy or Tomathin, and this is Ruppy.
Hi, I'm Ruppy. Some of you guys might know me as Rad Puppy. Also, Alex is my flesh tuber name. This is my flesh tuber model. I like your flesh tuber, Tommy.
Thank you. Yeah, we should have used VTubers for this. Would have made way more sense.
Yeah. Well, mine's in the works, and I'm also helping you out with your
Yeah.
right ideating.
I still need to create my character. I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but
We'll get there.
yeah. So I am the business development manager at VShojo. I manage pretty much all of our different sponsorships and like partnerships that we work with like other companies. So I have a lot of experience both working with streamers and working with different brands on a lot of different topics. And go ahead and introduce yourself as well, Ruppy.
Yeah, so I'm Ruppy. I'm the VP of Talent and Brand at VShojo. I've had Is this okay if I go into like kind of our stories here?
Go for it.
Can we? Okay. So it's I think I just have like a really funny story of how I got here. I started streaming in the Tumblr days of what is that, like 2013. And I discovered streaming because of Pokemon. And then it was just like a really fun thing for me to do, to just like find people to battle online. And then just like from that journey, I just continued streaming, not even with any hopes of like getting big or anything, just because it was fun. And from there, I went to like the first TwitchCon and then all TwitchCons after that. But the first TwitchCon was where it really sunk in that like, wow, this is something that's like real. This isn't just a hobby. The first TwitchCon ever was in San Francisco. And I don't remember what the convention center is, but it was this convention center that's like right in the middle of San Fran. And it was just like so small, so wholesome back then. But even back then, I already was like, wow, I really want to make like an org or a stream team. And like that was like my goal. So then I continued streaming because I wanted to grow my stream to be able to help manage and like bring streamers together and just make cool content for the community. Um, and like the endeavors of it kind of breaking out into the actual industry, like away from like your own independent stuff, was pretty hard. It took a lot of like talking to people, going to events. Like I said, I've been to every single TwitchCon afterwards. They were always a blast, but it didn't take until like uh a year ago that I got reached out to by someone that I had met throughout my journey, and they're like, "Hey, do you know what VTubers?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I know a couple things." And it's just so funny because back then when they reached out to me, I was just gonna do this job on the side because streaming without like a steady income is pretty difficult. And little did I know, I would go down this VTubing and VShojo rabbit hole. And now I went from being just like a contract worker, talent manager, to being the VP of talent and brand at VShojo. And I work on just like building our talent development, building our staff around talent development, around brand development and things like that. So it's been a heck of a journey for sure.
It's really insane. Like I know we definitely both talk about it a lot. How it almost seems like how far we've come from where we were like 5 years ago, especially. Um,
Yeah.
just kind of like entering the space, and now it feels like we're finally kind of establishing ourselves in the industry as well. So it's really awesome to be
Yeah, I
part of
mean,
this show and be part of VTubing in general. It's really really awesome.
yeah. Yeah, what's really cool is like Tomathin I've known for years because he used to work at Stream Elements, and he's helped me with my stream. And I was just saying earlier that you've helped me with like pretty much my only sponsor campaign ever,
Yep.
which was good times.
Yep.
And so yeah, it is cool to be like here at this panel with you. Like the two of us, we've come from really different spaces, but then like coming together and like having those like even cameos in each other's lives from the past is really cool.
Yeah. Super cool. So I want to go ahead and get into some of the topics we want to talk about for this panel, and then hopefully we'll kind of burn through those pretty quick, and then we can get into the more QA questions. We actually already have a couple QAs from our forums
Sweet.
on Twitter, but we're going to start with some of the topics we want to talk about first to kind of, if you didn't know about VTubers, talk about them and get you familiar. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is why do you think like VTubing like caught on in the first place? Like why did it get big? Why do people care? Why is it why is VTubing where it is today?
Yeah, so I'll start us off with that. Really, a lot of it is because just kind of engagement and content on the internet really grew in the last like 2 to 3 years. Um, a lot of that unfortunately is due to COVID. Everyone was kind of stuck inside, and everyone was like looking to the internet to for entertainment. Um, and so like with that, a lot of content creation just in general was becoming successful. And then I know like VTubing had already existed, but it started to become more popular just because of the natural progression of content creation becoming more popular. For me personally, I think VTubing has also become successful because VTubing allows you to create content like the way you really want to. Like there, you can kind of get rid of whatever limitations you have depending on how much you're willing to invest, like in your VTuber and in the world that you create within yourself. And then it's also just more fun. There's so much more expression to be done through an avatar, which I kind of love that contrast of you can kind of be yourself more as the person that you quote want to be because you feel more comfortable as this character versus like as yourself. But I would love your take on that too.
Yeah, so I think the thing about VTubing is I remember when it came out, there was so many people who were like, "Oh, this is a trend," like, "Oh, this is just a thing a couple people are doing," or maybe some companies are doing, but oh, it's just gonna be their thing, and then it'll die out. And we've seen it just skyrocket, not only from companies and organizations, but from indies as well. And I think the biggest reason is that there are many reasons. VTubing isn't just the ability to become an anime boy or anime girl, but it also, as you said, allows for people to be more true to themselves by becoming a character. Um, as well, since we live in a creator economy, people are constantly trying to come up with new and unique things to get people interested, whether that's graphics, whether that's an interesting hook to your stream or content in any way. And VTubing in general is interesting because it's just different, right? And I think
Right.
a lot of people um, didn't even know it was a thing. And so obviously at first people are like, oh, how does this work? I was just like anyone else. I think the first VTuber I ever actually saw was Pecora. I think it was Pecora. And I was just
Mm.
like, how is she even doing this? Like I don't really understand. Like how is this even set up? And I went down my own rabbit hole of just looking at all these different VTubers and figuring out how they did all of their rigging and how they set everything up. And I was like, it's insanely complicated and amazing how it all comes together to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. Well, I was gonna say it's this combination of all these different artists and ideas to create almost a branded content in a way that people can familiarize themselves with not only your personality but a character or an image of any kind that makes for I would say like a really enjoyable experience as a viewer because it's way easier to connect to a non-fictional character or sorry a fictional character than I would say like a normal person sometimes. And I think you can see that in things other than streaming, like the way people love characters from a
Movies,
Netflix show, yeah,
anime, yeah.
anime in general, um, or video games as well. So I think it's like it just kind of answers a lot of things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's here to stay, and I think it's going to continue to grow in all different types of ways.
Yeah, really quick, I just want to add on to that because I completely agree with you. It's totally that suspension of disbelief that brings people together more and connects people more to that content. And on top of that, since it's an actual like person piloting and doing like these in real time content, the connection is even stronger because there's a back and forth between like the audience and the character that they're consuming. And
You know,
I actually really quick, I had like a
yeah, go
funny
ahead.
memory that I just remembered from you saying who your first VTuber was. For me, I can't like entirely remember who my first VTuber was, but I do remember thinking like, is this a real person? Like I actually remember thinking like, wait, oh, this is cool. This is just a robot. I thought it was like kind of like Twitch plays Pokemon or something like that.
When
And
Zuna I came out, right? And everyone's thinking
yeah,
like, is this actually AI? Like,
yes, yeah,
what is this, right? And now we understand that it was like a whole production, but um when it came out, it's like Zuna AI, and everyone's just like, maybe it is. Like, is it making content on its own? This is crazy. How is it doing all these things? So,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
just that kind of wonder is what drew me into VTubing, and I think what drew a lot of people into it.
Yeah.
Um,
And then another thing is too, like to be honest with you, I think it's once you start getting into it, you start to discover more and more, and this is that rabbit hole effect. And you just see like, oh my God, this is a cute design. Oh my God, this is a cool design. Oh my God, I want to see what this person's like. I want to hear what this person's like. And then suddenly, like for me, I always I joke around that like my Twitter now is kind of just like a gotcha of like, ooh, what cute VTuber am I gonna see today?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, it's just like
it's really
what
addicting.
interesting design is like people gonna come up with next? What new like type of content? And there's just so many different things that I think VTubing is almost enabling in a way.
Yeah,
And I think that's
absolutely.
just why it's done so well. Moving on to another thing I wanted to cover. All right,
Mhm.
super hot topic.
Ooh.
Will we see more male VTubers? Why do you think there are less of them? Do you think that male VTubers struggle to succeed in the current economy of VTubers?
So ooh, that is a good question. Um, I mean, actually, we have Vox Akuma, who is like Niji's most subscribed, I believe. Oh, excuse me, most subscribed, I believe. And he's got a great model. He's got a great voice. He has a great personality for what he does. He loves to play games, and so I'm actually a fan of him. I mean, recently he actually had some drama that most people would say he handled very gracefully. So I do think like because of Vox, well, not I want to say like because of Vox, but people seeing Vox be able to do it, I do think like more male VTubers will be on the horizon. Um, I mean, there have been so many amazing ones so far already. I mean, like we got Kuzuha, we have everyone else that is within Vox's group as well. And I mean, I for me, what I really like about VTubers is when they have a lot of personality in their voice. So a lot of voice actors, I think, especially a lot of male voice actors, I think could really thrive within VTubing. I mean, look at Booby, right? It's not really a secret that Booby is Connor, who is a very talented is a very
No,
talented voice actor.
don't break
And
my
I mean,
immersion.
Booby's debut hit 40,000 viewers, and he absolutely killed that role. And so I do think a lot of men can like come into this space and have a lot of fun with just like going all out. And I mean, don't let me woman-splain the male experience, but I feel like since a lot of men kind of have to go through life like not being able to really express themselves, VTubing becomes really, really fun because you get to just like finally let it out and just be whatever, you know?
Yeah, I think that's actually that's a great point that I wanted to bring up. Is that I think a lot of guys are definitely really scared to be themselves online. They want to be what people think they should be, or
Yeah, absolutely.
what they think people want, rather than trying to be themselves. And I think a big restrictor of that is having to put your face on stream and having to constantly share your personal life with people all the time. And I think we've seen that um, streamers in general often succeed when they're most themselves, not just VTubers, right? And I
Yes.
think whatever they can do to enable that to be their best self is going to help them to succeed. Uh, on the topic of like, will we see more male VTubers? Do male VTubers have it harder and stuff like that? I think it's very simple that what it comes down to with everything, and this is just in VTubing. I think we'll get more into this later, but particularly that it just comes down to a lot of the content that you make.
Hmm.
Um, of course, you have like Nijisanji and Hololive and stuff, which are really great at doing these promotions and do a really good job to start these people off. But I also think that if you're a like indie male VTuber, that you're facing the same challenges that everyone else is face. There's no preferential treatment by anyone rather than is your content good, right? And I think it all comes back to, are you trying to do interesting things? Are you trying to make content or are you just
Mhm.
streaming? And it's less of a conversation around like, oh, should I be a male VTuber? Should I be a female VTuber? It's like, be you, whatever that is. It doesn't
Right.
matter. If you're a guy and you want to be a cat girl, then be a cat girl. Who cares? That's the beauty. You can do whatever you want. Um, and vice versa. So I think it's just it's more important to think about what you're trying to accomplish with your content rather than look to
Yes.
alternate factors like, oh, I don't get viewers because I'm a male VTuber or male VTubers can't succeed. Obviously, we've seen it's been proven wrong.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think um, definitely try to focus on other stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and to add just a little bit to that, I love that you mentioned you can do whatever you want to do, and I kind of like want to give this advice too for not just VTubers, but all streamers, all content creators. What's great about VTubing is that you can play to your strengths, and I do think a lot of times flesh tubers they kind of forget that part too, that streaming and just creating content is literally about showcasing you and what your strengths are. Like what is it about you that you think people should watch, that you think people should listen to? And I do think that VTubing makes it a little bit easier for you to kind of find those, because you get to, it's mostly a showcase of your personality, because even your character is, I mean, well, some people can kind of like buy characters, but if you end up making a character on your own, you know, that design is yours, it came from your brain, and everyone gets to see truly like who you are through that character. So I will say that's also an advantage that VTubers kind of have over flesh tubers. And I do want to say, like, you know, if you're out there, you're an aspiring VTuber, aspiring content creator, definitely it is all about being yourself, which I know is like one of those things that like nobody necessarily wants to hear because it's not like actionable. But like think about your strengths, you know, what are you a great speaker? Do you have really creative ideas? Do you like to draw? Are you a great artist? Or, you know, like things like that. And also, well, actually, I saw a question on this like later, so I'm just gonna
sure.
keep it there.
Okay, cool. We'll revisit that. I was going to say this actually segues really great
Oh,
into our next question, which is the like, can anyone be a VTuber, and why be a VTuber over not being a VTuber, as well as like what are some of those challenges that comes with being a VTuber. And I actually, if I can, like I have a
yeah.
couple points I'd like to lead in, which is I think that anyone can be a VTuber easily. I think, I mean, that's Mouse's goal. That's my goal. Like everyone should be a VTuber. But I think one thing that the VTubers have to remember is that they actually have a very large head start. Even indie VTubers have a
Mm.
very large start on your average streamer. A lot of people like to talk about, I think, on Twitter or on different things about how there's competition between VTubers, or there's this reason or that reason why maybe they don't succeed. And I think it's important to remember that as much as you are a VTuber, you also compete with these other streamers.
Mhm.
And you're not just competing with other VTubers. In the same way that when you go onto YouTube, if you decide to stream on YouTube, this is a bit of a tangent, but if you decide to stream on YouTube, um, you are also competing with VOD content. You're not just
Mm.
competing with other live streams. In the same way that when you go on Twitch, there are people, including myself, who go to the VTuber tag on Twitch, but most of the time people aren't. And so you're just a streamer like everyone else. You just have your own setup and branding. This is really good, by the way, because most people just pull up a game and then hit stream, and then
Right.
that's it. And maybe they have a face cam, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
and you can see lots of veteran streamers even saw plenty of success from that. Um, just because you brand your stream and invest a lot of money into it, it's not going to succeed. What you need to secure is an idea of your content and what you're trying to produce and what you're trying to make. You can have all the best emotes, a really a nice expensive model, a super good overlay, transitions, and all of this stuff. But if you just show up and you just play Valorant every day and don't do anything, it's going to be hard to attract viewers. You have no reason for people to come into your channel, or no reason for people to find interest in you other than looking at your branding.
Mm.
So I think it's important that to remember that for lots of VTubers, when you do their branding, when you do all this stuff to make your stream based on a certain character, like lore, like a debut, like all of this other thing, all these other things, that these are stepping stones to the goal of creating quality and consistent content.
Right.
Because that's what people are going to come back for. That's what people are going to be like, oh, my favorite streamer, Silvervale, is streaming at this time, so I got to go, see her at that time. So it's important to keep doing a lot of different content like that, rather than rely on your branding and say like, well, I did all the steps of being a VTuber, I became one, but no one's showing up, and I don't know why, and it's because that this only gets you so far. And yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you're going to face a lot of the same problems that every other streamer faces and has faced
Right.
for the past 10 years. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think something that, I mean, at least for me, I never really saw too many people say it from this perspective, but the comparisons are like so killer to a lot of streamers, or content creators rather. It's so easy to be like, oh, this person succeeded because they had a better model or they got these hosts and stuff like that. And even though maybe like the numbers are there, it doesn't necessarily mean they've like succeeded within the actual means of succeeding. And to kind of talk more about like what you were saying, the strongest marketing, the strongest like connection you can make with an audience is kind of following a storyline, is like providing pretty much stories for your audience to follow. So that's like a big advantage that VTubers do have, is that since we have this like meta or etiquette of debuting, it generates a lot of hype. And like, for instance, a lot of what I've been doing with VShojo this last year was organizing a lot of debuts. So we did Nyanners in January. We did Ironmouse slash Booby in March, I believe, and then Zen, and then many debuts to come. And a lot of what's really fun about that is like I said, like building the universe, making storylines that people are really attached to. Like, for instance, Ironmouse and Connor, like a question that or Ironmouse and Booby slash Connor rather, a question that I've gotten a lot actually at cons is, why does everybody love those two so much? They have a great dynamic that is constantly like telling a story for the audience. It's content. So VTubers are able to not only like express themselves more creatively, be themselves, also within their characters, they can like give great stories. And so it's what kind of sucks for fledged tubers in that regard is like really the best you can do when you're just literally being your human self is just talking about your own personal experiences or just like kind of like hanging out with a group of friends and like kind of allowing people to live vicariously through you and stuff like that, because that can only go so far sometimes. But within VTubing you can just like continuously build it. I mean, at VShojo we're literally building like the Marvel universe of our VTubers, and
So just
it's been a
cinematic
lot of
universe.
fun. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. So also like to kind of go back to the actual question. Can anyone be a VTuber? Yes. Can you tell a story? Yeah, you can be a VTuber. Do you have a favorite character? Actually, I'm going to even go into this right now. If you want to be a VTuber, my best like first advice to you is start a Google Doc of your references. Think about the things you like. Think about what characters you like. Like, for instance, right now what I've been doing is I've been putting up like visuals of things that I connect to. For instance, Princess Mononoke is like a movie that I love so much because I love the characters in it. It reminds me of me. So I put up stuff of things that remind me of me that I like. So I really like these strong, independent female characters that are like honestly bloodthirsty and just like ready to just like fight. So like that, if you want to get into VTubing, it's hard, but it's also easy. But also the fun part of it is that like creative process and the ideations towards it. That's why like whenever I'm talking to someone and people are like, "Oh my God, I want to be a VTuber." I'm like, "All right, what do you like? What music do you listen to? What's your favorite anime? What's your favorite movie?" And the answers are all there and it's so much fun.
I think there's actually I want to make like one more I think big point, and then I think we can move on to the QA
Yeah.
actually portion.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the big point I want to make about all of this is if you're considering becoming a VTuber or if you're like an indie VTuber already, is the first step to doing this stuff is to stream. And I would say start streaming with just a game and no cam. Start
Mhm.
streaming at the most basic, easy level, watch a small guide on OBS and just go. And you'll figure it out as you go, and you'll figure out what works, what doesn't, what feels
Mhm.
good, what doesn't. Because content creation is really hard.
Yes.
Really hard. Not only are you trying to think of new things and unique things constantly to keep things interesting and keep your audience engaged, but because you have a smaller audience, you're at a disadvantage where people don't care about your opinion as much. Because you're not a big figure, people aren't as interested on your take on things. So you have to specifically create content that will get people interested and keep them coming back and give them a reason to listen to your opinion, give them a reason to want to um, interact with you and your personality. And I think it's just always important that when you're starting to become a VTuber, that you have to first ask, do I want to be a streamer? Do I want to do all the things that content creation entails? Is this just a hobby? Am I willing to put a lot of this money and prep work and all this stuff into this because I just love it? I think it's cool and it's a hobby? Or is this something you want to make a career out of, a job out of? Is this what you want to do? And how seriously are you going to take that? Um, because I think there's a lot of people who end up in this trap where they they try to do everything right and they are doing unique things here and there and they're branding all this stuff with their VTuber model, but they are just burnt out,
Mm.
depressed, and it just feels awful. Just remember to put yourself first in these things. It's just like any other job.
Yeah.
You know, you have to really make sure that you're doing something that you enjoy and doing it in a way that makes sense for you. And yeah, just I guess what I'm saying is this comes back to before you want to be a VTuber and do all of the things required to, maybe not required, I would say, but all of the things that maybe being a VTuber entails, it takes a lot of effort, and you first got to take the first step to know that you want to be a streamer first. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I kind of have a unique perspective on that too, because like I said, with streaming, I just kind of stumbled into this. I really didn't know that I would be streaming for the rest of my life. I just wanted to play video games on the internet and like talk to people and listen to music. And what's cool is like, so it's been a decade, and because of that decade, I think a lot of my content was actually just me kind of finding myself and figuring out who I am as a person. And I never had a thought where I was like, okay, I'm gonna just stop everything and focus on streaming. And there were times where I thought, dang, why did I spend so much time like, working in Chicago, like in a Chicago restaurant when I could have just like streamed for all these hours? That's the trap that they put you in because in order to create good content, one, you need to be like very stable in multiple ways. Content demands a lot out of you mentally, financially.
yeah,
And so like my big thing is I always try to tell people, even though it seems so fun and extravagant to just stop doing what you're doing and just stream, you have to make sure you're okay first. And part of making sure you're okay is not just financially, but also like knowing what you want and who you are. So those are important things. And I'm also a firm believer that if this is really what you want to do, it'll happen. I mean, like I said, like me, I've been doing this for a decade, and I did not know I would be here, but I'm doing my dream job, and I didn't even know this was my dream job. So,
same boat as
I hope
well.
that can be
Yeah.
helpful for some people.
To just keep, yeah, like it sounds cliche, but in the way of keep working hard, make your mental health is number one priority. But keep working hard and keep trying to do cool things. If you think it's
Yeah.
cool, figure it out, try it, see how you can do it yourself.
Oh yes, and even though people don't think this, breaks are way okay. They're fine because what happens like when you log out of the internet and you kind of go back outside and kind of remember your place in the world, it actually becomes helpful for your content. So prior to whatever people believe about breaks, please take breaks. Breaks are very important.
And then we're gonna get into the Q&A in 1 second, but I
Okay,
remembered
okay.
one thing I want to say, is that a lot of people get very hung up on the definition of what a VTuber is. And like, oh, well, am I a VTuber? Is this person a VTuber? Is this person
Yeah.
allowed to be a VTuber? Like all this different stuff. And there's a lot of different delineations. And as someone that's been watching Twitch for nearly a decade as well, um, I would say VTuber is like a new term in a way that we would describe anyone that isn't showing their face. If you have a
Mm.
PNG, that's fine. If you don't have anything, that's fine. That's a
You have an
VTuber in my
avatar.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just have an avatar. I have something that maybe changes when you talk in the slightest. You don't even need to have something that changes when you talk. I mean, there's a small argument that I would say that Lyric for a long time was a VTuber. He had a mascot,
Mm.
right? But he didn't have anything on stream that was like animated and moving constantly. It's just all up to um, whatever you want. So don't get caught up on like worrying about, am I a VTuber? Am I this? Can I afford this? This is going to take so much work. Just take it one step at a time and do what makes sense for you.
Oh yeah.
And just as long as you keep moving it forward and trying to do something, then you're moving in the right direction. Cool. Um, I think that's everything we want to talk about, and we can get into the Q&A
Nice.
if you're ready for that.
Yeah.
We got a couple more questions both on the forum and in Discord. But let's go ahead and just start with a couple we have on the forum.
Yeah.
And we'll go through these pretty quick. But first one is, what would you say is the biggest difference between starting up a VTubing streamer career versus a standard streaming career?
Yeah, so I'll try to go with this really quickly. One, VTubing is really, really expensive. Streaming already
Yes.
is expensive, and okay. Honestly, I've thought about this so much, but within streaming, like in my decade here, I have really seldom met people that came from a similar background of me, where or myself, where like I kind of had a I didn't I straight up didn't realize how poor I was until I started like meeting more people from streaming. And I think a lot of that is because the barrier to entry within streaming, especially around the time that it was starting to get bigger, was kind of hard. Like you needed an expensive computer, you needed like two monitors, you needed good internet. All of this are really expensive things that is not very accessible to people, especially back then. And I mean, they're a lot more accessible now, so now you take the barrier of entry from content creation already, and then you add VTubing onto that, and it's really
Yeah.
expensive.
Well,
Um,
and I
Good.
was gonna say, as well as the like oh my gosh, the technological literacy. So like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
let's say
Yeah.
like okay, you're getting into VTubing. Are you drawing the art for yourself? Do you know how to do digital art? Are you rigging it? Do you know how to work Live 2D or the other programs? Is it going to be a 3D model? Okay, well now we have to talk about like Unity, Blender, and like all this other stuff, VC Face. Like okay, like now we're getting Discord, OBS. Like it piles up
There's a lot
really,
of
really
nuances.
fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
nuances. However, what is also great about VTubing is that the community has been really awesome. Like this community reminds me of like early esports days and like early content creation days. Everyone's so happy to like help one another. I've learned so much from just straight up asking questions, and everyone's like really happy to answer. The VTubing community in and of itself is like the most talented community I've ever been a part of. I'm constantly seeing like prodigies within music. I'm seeing prodigies within art. I actually saw Lord Athelstan in the chat, and if he's still in here, he's someone that I thought was like, this dude is a freaking prodigy in music. He didn't even know it until he started like doing more like lore stuff with us. Like, there's just so much talent in this community, and like it's hard to not want to be a part of it. And also, if you do want to be a part of it, they're also really welcoming. Like you can just straight up follow like your favorite artist, send them a DM. Maybe they'll answer, maybe they don't, but sometimes they do. And you just get really, it's just awesome. So whereas it's hard, if you're willing to put in like the time to do your research and like talk to people, it's also easy.
Exactly, right. And I think like having a passion for this kind of
Yeah.
stuff is what makes it so great, right? And definitely shout out to Athelstan. That guy kills every single music track he makes is nuts.
I'm so blown
Um,
away by this community, like for real. It's so cool.
Next
So
question.
did that answer the question?
I think yeah, I think I'd say that answered the question. Um, but next was a friend of mine said they felt they need to follow the numbers instead of taking risks, but
Hmm.
that they respect people who don't follow trends because sometimes they become trend setters. What does your idea of following the numbers entail?
Okay, what is my idea of following the numbers entail? So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna be biased with this answer because I'm always someone who like I just naturally hate following trends. I do like to observe them and kind of gather whatever info from like why is this working versus this? Oh, it's probably because of that. So whereas it's safe to follow the numbers, it's safe to do what you want to do. Like I said, at the end of the day, you can really thrive with VTubing because VTubing kind of amplifies the strengths that you have. So if you, for instance, okay, I'll use an example. League of Legends. I think people think that VTubing and League of Legends aren't really gonna do well because people think that League of Legends is like a dying game. So most people, when they go into VTubing, they're gonna want to go into whatever is the trend for gaming. But I do think actually there's a lot of room for success for like, for instance, like a gifted player to like a mechanically gifted, like a flashy player to thrive within League of Legends as a VTuber. Because I mean, think about the League of Legends aesthetic. It's already kind of within the same realm. So you see, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, like I know a lot of League players that get very mentally blocked because the game can be so frustrating. And plus, if you're streaming online, you have like your face up there. It's hard. You get frustrated. I mean, that was me. I for the longest time I would get so tilted because I know people are like looking at me and waiting for me to like get upset or something, you know? Um, but with a VTuber, you can just like kind of let it out. Maybe you can like be toxic the way you want. Don't be too mean, please. But like it's still
Toxic,
you still
but
get to be
yeah,
you still get to
yeah,
be like a character. So I actually predicted that VTuber could do really well with League of Legends.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of there's a lot of like missed opportunities there. I think when it comes to looking at the numbers, it comes down to I think two main things, and it's one, because I like to look at the numbers a lot. Okay, like
Right.
I
Yeah.
am a
Yeah.
huge like Sully gnome lurker. Like I like to look at numbers all the time, and I think it's important to like look at more than just like up and down. It's really easy to get caught up in, oh, I had less viewers today. Oh, I had more viewers tomorrow. Oh, I had less viewers, the day before that or whatever. Like all this other stuff just really messes with your head more than is actual like useful information.
Hmm.
And you want to use the data that you have to kind of analyze your content on why it worked and why it didn't work, almost like reviewing a VOD of a game, right? Or trying to figure out like what you did wrong,
Yeah.
or using it in a way to spot trends and maybe not play the meta, but kind of play adjacent to it. It's important to remember that I think this is something I think a lot of people get caught up in is when you're a smaller streamer, and when I say small, I mean like maybe like more like less than 50, even like less than 20 viewers on average. So it was the more like smaller end of Twitch. Um, it's important to remember that you just don't play on the same rules as Asmongold, XQC, Mizkif, these people who have absolutely, Ironmouse, right? Nanners, Vebe, like you don't play on the same rules as these people,
Hmm.
because people come to them because they understand them, they know who they are, and they know what kind of content they're gonna get, and if they're introduced to them new, most likely they're coming from another big creator to them. So it's important to remember that just because you have like a small viewership and you play meta, that's not necessarily going to get you anywhere. because people are following the meta of the big people, not
Yeah,
the meta
that's
of
true.
the small people. It's two different metas.
Yeah,
I would
I
I
mean,
would I would argue, and you have to
actually,
work harder to get
yeah,
to what they do. Like, you have to way harder to get to the type
the
of content
saturated.
that they do. Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's way better to do something completely different, or maybe, like, I would say is like meta adjacent. So, like, uh, as an example, let's say if Valorant is the meta, everyone's playing Valorant, right? All the time.
hmm
You could do something like doing a Valorant tournament. You could do something like doing a Valorant challenge, and like, or I mean, I don't know. Obviously, thinking of content on the spot is hard, but uh, doing things like that where you can kind of maybe play into that audience, but also not do what everyone else is doing. I
yeah.
think it's a really, like I said before, but it's just a really easy trap to like be like, oh man, I got a lot of viewers just streaming Valorant, and I didn't do anything special that stream, and then I tried to do something special, and then I lost viewership. Like, what happened? Um, and it just takes a lot of continuous content and uniqueness to really break out of your shell, because you are at a disadvantage. That's just the reality.
Yeah. So since like we only have a few more minutes, I do you mind if I'm kind of
Yeah,
gonna mix these next two questions.
go for it.
So the next two questions were, what is a good mindset slash expectations to have when you start VTubing? And is becoming a successful VTuber attainable by anyone? What kinds of qualities would stop someone from being successful as a VTuber? So I'm just, you don't mind if I just like kind of, okay.
Yeah.
So one, I think good mindset and expectations to have when you start VTubing is I firmly believe it's really just about like knowing yourself and like I said, play to your strengths. Like for instance, I'll even use myself as an example. I would love to get back into streaming. I mean, I do love streaming. I love streaming as a flesh tuber, and I do want to do VTubing because like I love to design. I love to be character. I love to be very theatrical. And because I know that I love to be theatrical, I think that I could really succeed or be entertaining at least as a character. So things like that, like, and I know that about myself because I've spent 10 years now just kind of like being nomadic with my life and meeting a bunch of people. So this is something that I know about me, and it's a strength that I would like to play up further. So kind of more into that, it did take me a long time to figure out, and not only to figure out what I believe that I was capable of, but also to actually believe it. Having confidence is so important to being a great entertainer. And it's not easy to be confident. And not only is it not easy to be confident, it's not easy to be confident in this space because you're plastered with comparison. You always see someone else do better than you. You could see your friend who started this like 2 days ago versus you who started this 10 years ago and they just blew up. And then it's really, really hard to get out of that. And it to be confident also requires patience. It requires a lot of internal thinking. Like really ask yourself, why are you doing this? And what are you doing it for? And why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? Why should it matter to anyone else? So those are a little kind of deeper, difficult like questions to kind of think about, but I do think it's worth it, especially because VTubing is such a good opportunity to really showcase who you are and why you deserve to be like celebrated, which you do. You do deserve to be celebrated. And then is becoming a successful VTuber attainable by anyone? What kinds of qualities would stop someone from being successful as a VTuber? So like, it's kind of similar to what I just said. I do believe everybody could be a VTuber. I would love to make anybody and everybody a VTuber. In fact, if I ever stream and you're coming into my chat and you're like, I want to be a VTuber, I will start you out right there. I'll ask you. I've been going to cons for the last like few months, and my favorite thing is just talking to people and asking them like what is gonna like kind of make their personality. And sometimes we'll uncover things about them that they didn't even know that they had, and they're like, oh, you know what? I am like that. I do feel like I'm a bug, or I do feel like I'm a tomato, you know. So and those are like the most fun things, and then that also kind of adds into seeing people become more confident in who they are because I'm kind of providing that back and forth. So if you ever see me at a con, please feel free. That's like my favorite conversation to have. I hope that makes sense, and I'm trying to just like kind of do these quickly. And then Tomathin, if you had anything to add.
I mean, I'll be really quick with this one, and actually the next question, real quick. But I think when it comes to like your idea of like your mindset and expectations and like the qualities that someone successful does is I would say the qualities of someone successful in almost any other field. Like you have to be passionate, hardworking. You have to constantly try and think of new things. The biggest thing, as you said, is just keeping your mental straight. It's really easy to get down on yourself and compare constantly, and there's a million reasons on the internet why something could depress you or make it not seem as good as you wanted it to be. It's just important to remember that you're trying to have fun and you're trying to do something cool. As for expectations, I this might sound a little harsh, but I genuinely think that if you're going into VTubing streaming in general with no experience and you're like, I want to be a content creator, I want to play games, this is what I want to do, just remember that it's going to be hard. The biggest misconception around content creators is that they just sit around and play games all day. And if you don't really watch these people or interact with them on the level that we do, you understand that um, it's just nonstop talking to people. It's nonstop talking to people all day, setting up collabs, setting up things, talking to artists, talking to managers, talking to brands, talking to everyone and anyone to try and make your content as entertaining as possible for as many people as possible.
Yes.
So it's a lot, and I think sometimes people are not ready for that. So just remember that it's a process, and you
Hmm.
have to just keep working towards it.
Yeah,
Um,
you're basically constantly having to sell yourself, like not like you're so well. You're constantly having to like market yourself rather to
yeah,
all kinds of people, an audience, like you said, or brands, artists, and it gets easier doing that more efficiently the more you know yourself. And it just starts to become like your aura, and it starts to become like, oh, people know. I feel bad that a lot of this was more philosophical, so I'm very sorry if people came in here expecting to learn like, oh, I need to download this and I need to download. But honestly, that's not my strongest suit. But hopefully, that's something I could help with in the future. I mean, people can find me on Twitter or whatever.
yeah. I mean, and like we have tons of experienced people in the community as well as like I'm super experienced on the tech side as well. If you guys ever had questions or something like that, you can always DM us. We're always open and to talk about this stuff as we talk about this stuff way too much anyways. um, but I did want to answer one more question from Clawmaster in the Discord, just really quick to kind of wrap us up. And that was, what would you like to see personally from other VTubers? Personally, I am looking for more VTubers that dive into their characters and more past the debut. It's a goal for myself to do in my own VTubing adventures when I debut in the future.
Oh, wait, me, you.
Oh, I can go first. Uh, but yeah, well, like, what would I like to see personally from other VTubers? Um, this is definitely my personal opinion, and I know I've talked to you about this before, but it comes down to I think a lot of the origins of VTubing, and it makes sense the way it's transpired, that there's just a lot of anime in it, and that's fine. I love it. In fact, so many people look amazing because of it, and it translates super well to drawings and animating and all the things that VTubing needs. But I absolutely adore and love when I find people who create something of a different art style or
Mm.
a different type of VTuber entirely. Um, like a gun VTuber or or all these other different things. Like you know what I mean?
Wait, wait,
Like,
wait.
like just trying out like stupid stuff,
Yeah, yeah,
being like
yeah.
and trying something that not just necessarily stupid stuff, but trying something that is more interesting or in a different art style, or trying something that
Yeah,
is
more
not
stylized.
yeah, more stylized and unique. And when VTubing was coming in, it was important to remember that uh, one of the like we said, one of the big things was that VTubing was just unique to the content creation space in general on every platform.
Mm-hmm.
And as we get more and more VTubers, I think we have an even more golden opportunity to push that, to make a crazy monster VTuber, to make
Absolutely.
to make whatever. And that's
There's
kind of what I
tons.
really like. Yeah.
I've seen a cult leader VTuber, which is really cute. I mean, even a lot of our talent do. That's what I love about our talent. They're constantly pushing the envelope. I love Nanner's debut back in January because she does a lot of like breaking the like the fourth wall kind of stuff. I love seeing that. I would love to see more stylized VTubers. You know, anime is cool, but like more cartoony, I think is also really neat. I mean, Pikami is like an example. Um, and yeah, so there's so much to go into it. So hopefully in the future we can talk more about this.
Yeah. And um, I think that is all of the time we have for now.
Can I
But
answer one more question, if
oh,
possible?
sure, go for it.
Do we have time for that?
Uh, let's go quick.
Okay. So it says, hey, this is Yanni. What do you think about the longevity of Twitch in particular as a streaming platform? For additional context, that this could also refer to Twitch failing to meet community expectations. So really quick, I will say I do think Twitch has a bit of a disconnect between its community and its and the people running it. I do see them wanting to step up. I kind of believe that Twitch will become the home of VTubers. It's just what it kind of looks like to me. Whereas I know like really successful VTubers are on YouTube. There's just like that charm that Twitch has and will never be able to let go because like that's just the brand that they've built. And I do see like a lot of VTubers like growing within Twitch. So that's where I think of it.
I'll finish off by saying that I also have like a strong leaning towards Twitch because I've grown so close to it, gone to like many TwitchCons and stuff. But I think when you really start to break down the pros and cons of should I go to Twitch, should I go to YouTube, or even any other live streaming platform, I think the biggest things you have to consider is I think Twitch is known as the live streaming platform,
Right.
and YouTube isn't. And when you're on YouTube, it's difficult to get to to only the live streams, and sometimes hard to tell
Yeah.
when your
The
person's live.
navigation, yeah, it's
Um,
still not there.
dealing with the interface from a actual streamer having to create a thumbnail for every single stream that you do.
Mm,
These are like already big steps when you're already putting in so much work to every other part of your stream,
yeah.
that I think YouTube can sometimes be more of a headache, especially for like newer people. Now, I think YouTube is going in the right direction. I think they have a lot of cool things. I think that YouTube is really cool, but right now, like if you were to ask me, um, like, okay, I'm getting into streaming, I'm gonna do VTubing. Do I do Twitch or YouTube? I'd say Twitch right now. Um, but that's right now, and
But
things change.
use Twitch to create your content and then use YouTube to take your Twitch content and
Yes.
like make clips, make videos, make highlights. So then you have something that circulates back into your Twitch and then your Twitch will circulate back into YouTube, TikTok. So you want to have like kind of static content that exists kind of forever and can be found whenever. And then you have your live content and then it'll just become like a nice flow.
Utilize the other platforms for their strengths. So short content on TikTok, medium content on YouTube, Twitter for
Twitter also is
memes,
really good. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like all the other stuff, whatever you can handle, because again, this is more work.
Mhm.
But and then Twitch is your long form content, right? So yeah, I'd say just do what you can, and I'd probably, at least for now, start on Twitch. Ludwig has a great video on this. If you guys ever want to look at it, he talks very in depth about this. I would check out his video as well. But I think we are definitely out of time, and I'm going to cut us off here. Um, but thank you guys for joining us today. Please
Thank
stick
you.
around.
This is so
Um,
cool.
Ironmouse is joining us for the next interview, so please stick around,
Not
everyone.
us, but
And oh well,
joining.
not us. Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, she has a interview after us. But anyway, thanks guys. Thanks Inven for having us, and
Thank
definitely stick
you.
around. Thanks guys.